Hello and welcome back to Tommy Does Crypto. Today's video is going to be packed with the latest market news affecting the crypto scene right now and my predictions about the next major moves in the market and Bitcoin particularly. I'll also be focusing primarily on what we can expect from KASPA in the coming weeks and whether or not now is a good time to buy more. Please do help support my channel by leaving a like, commenting your thoughts and subscribing if you're new. Anyway, let's get straight into it. In my last video, I discussed in detail why the entire market, both crypto and stocks, saw such a big flash crash and how it was caused by the Japanese yen and the carry trade, as well as the worse than expected American unemployment data and big tech company earnings reports suggesting a slowing of economic growth within the US. We then saw that aggressive Bitcoin bounce back from 49k all the way up to 60k, and as of right now when I'm recording this video, we're currently chopping around this 58k to 61k consolidation region, looking hopefully for a continuation up past 61k soon. There's no real surprises here given that the entire market feels currently a bit like we're hanging in limbo, waiting for the next major market move. There are fears throughout the world right now of big news that could have a negative impact on all the markets, including further news that could point towards an American economic recession, further consequences from huge borrowing that has taken place with the Japanese yen over the last decade, and even political news such as the Iran and Israel war or Kamala Harris beating Donald Trump in the upcoming US presidential election in November. Despite all this though, the majority of stock markets have recovered nicely since the big correction on August the 2nd. As you can see, the Nasdaq, the FTSE 100 and the S&P 500 have all recouped the majority of their lost ground over the last 5 days, which is definitely a positive sign. However, without a doubt, right now still the market is very uncertain, so you have to remain vigilant at this time. Having a look over at the ETF inflows, and for Bitcoin, over the last few days we've seen some fairly large buying, especially on August the 8th, when around $380 million worth of Bitcoin was bought up by the ETFs, particularly by BlackRock and WisdomTree. We also saw, however, around $182 million sold by Grayscale on that same day, since they continue to gradually dump their holdings due to their less attractive fees for customers. And on Wednesday we saw even further selling from Fidelity, Bitwise and ARK, which contributed to a red day then too, which resulted in BTC dropping from 60 down to 58k. In other breaking news about Bitcoin, particularly regarding mainstream adoption, is that one of the world's largest investment banks, Goldman Sachs, now holds $238 million worth of BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF and $80 million worth of Fidelity's Bitcoin ETF. This suggests their huge growing confidence in Bitcoin, which is ultimately very bullish for us given that these financial institutions are desperate for a piece of the pie that is Bitcoin, since they now understand how great of an asset it truly is and need exposure for it in their investment funds. Also, by the way, as I said a few videos ago, the exchange Mt. Gox, which collapsed in 2014, was due to repay their customers who had lost funds. And now, we've received an update that so far 67.7% of Mt. Gox repayments have been completed, with $3.2 billion worth of Bitcoin distributed to creditors. So clearly the repayments are near completion and the final payouts are expected by the end of August, so that's great news for all of those who are worrying about a significant sell-off. It's also good because it's one less thing for us crypto investors to worry about contributing to the volatility that we have seen recently, especially regarding the FUD that came out for Mt. Gox a few weeks ago. Now looking at Ethereum ETF inflows, and as we know, Grayscale continue to dump, but in smaller quantities as the days seem to go on. In terms of inflows, the other ETFs have moderately been buying up the Ethereum dip, however it is clear that they remain wary of further Ethereum and market downside, so the buying pressure has not been overly strong. One interesting thing to note about the Grayscale Bitcoin selling and the Grayscale Ethereum selling is that it appears that the ETHE selling is following the GBTC selling line almost perfectly parallel but just slightly earlier. Therefore, if it continues to follow this same pattern of selling, this chart could be quite useful to predict the future Grayscale ETHE selling patterns and would mean that the selling is going to slightly plateau for the next few days, or even weeks actually, before going back to that steeper selling and then plateauing once again. Now, if we look at Bitcoin on the more macro scale, there are two possible scenarios that I see playing out. Either an impulsive wave breakout of this falling channel for Bitcoin, which would send the crypto market into greed and we would look to be seeing a new all-time high and into price discovery before the end of the year. The other scenario, however, that I see playing out is that we are due one more big retracement back down in the coming months, which could see us falling below the previous local low and potentially heading below 49k. If that scenario did play out, then we would likely be seeing an aggressive bullish bounce after that, and therefore in my eyes, no matter which scenario that plays out, I still strongly believe that the bull run will be in full force during 2025, with Bitcoin likely topping out between Q2 and Q4. At the moment though, in terms of the two short-term scenarios, it's just too early to say at this point which direction we are heading in. Hopefully the US Fed is able to get the situation under control before then and we don't see another big market collapse, which would send Bitcoin into scenario 2 and down below 49k. But in my personal opinion, I do believe that the likelihood is we are coming towards the end of this downward channel and Bitcoin hopefully will be seeing some impulsive bullish action soon, so long as the wider stock and commodity market holds up just for the next month or so, while we battle out the consequences of the Japanese yen trade and the slowing down of American economic growth. Right, now let's move on to KASPA. For those of you who have been watching me for a while now, you will know that I've talked about how since KASPA's inception, price has followed a power law. Also, bear in mind that the only other asset in history to follow a power law is Bitcoin, so this is extremely bullish for a coin that many still think is irrelevant or will crash and burn after this bull run. Obviously, it's important to note that once KASPA or Bitcoin's price breaks above or below the outside band of the power law and has a significant deviation from the R-squared number, below 0.90 for example, then the power law theory is then obsolete and becomes invalid. However, if it continues along the power law as it has so far, then we can use the power law to predict future general price range zones for KASPA to hit, even years and decades from now. Right, in order to investigate if the recent flash crash resulted in KASPA breaking its power law, we'll be taking a look at Miko Geno, aka Plan K's KASPA power law model. He draws attention to the fact that we do sometimes have these small wicks that do go below the lower band of the power law temporarily. However, they cannot be used to suggest that the model is invalid, since historically KASPA has been able to quickly regain that ground back above the lower band and continue along the power law. The main thing to see is that KASPA's power law has not been invalidated by this recent dip, since it has still retained an R-squared value of 0.954, meaning that KASPA's price remains remarkably accurate with the power law. Therefore, there is nothing to worry about as KASPA's power law continues to be upheld. On top of that, it seems that this is the perfect time to begin stacking up more on KASPA, as I do strongly believe that in the next couple of months from now, this 16 cents price range will look ridiculously cheap, particularly as we continue to follow this power law with staggering accuracy, meaning that soon it is likely that we will never see this sort of price range ever again. One scenario or theory that I see playing out is that even if Bitcoin does see a lower dip in the next month or so below 49k, we could find that KASPA has already pumped to make a new all-time high above 40 cents, and so KASPA could likely weather that storm very confidently after hitting its next major peak as per my KASPA fractal, which would then mean that KASPA's next correction down to its local major bottom would line up with the rest of the market falling at the same time, and this would also mean that KASPA would still likely keep its head afloat for higher than the price levels that we are currently seeing at the moment in this final shakeout zone. Therefore, if that is the case, then that would mean that in a month or so from now, we will literally never see the KASPA price this cheap again, which is what prompts me to suggest, not financial advice obviously, but in the long term, you cannot go wrong buying more KASPA at this 16 cents region. Even if you just dollar cost averaged at the moment, wow, you could really be thanking and congratulating yourself in a few months and years from now that you stacked this incredible crypto asset at such a cheap price. By the way, these indicators are very rough and not price specific obviously. This is just to give you a simple picture of how the scenario might play out in my personal opinion, but this is liable to change day by day and I will continue to update this in future videos. Looking at other charts, the KASPA BTC chart looks to be remaining very strong and hopefully soon it will begin to build on its momentum against Bitcoin. The Bitcoin mining company Marathon Digital's announcement in June and the new Binance Binance mining pool that I spoke about in my last video have sent KASPA's hash rate soaring up to new heights and just hitting a new hash rate all-time high of over 840 petahash per second. And right now we're currently working just below 800 petahash. All of this points towards new massive big players from the mining industry likely trying to join in the fun and started to mine KASPA, which has ultimately contributed to this parabolically growing hash rate as the computational power going into the KASPA network just increases day on day. And every day we are edging ever closer to that 1 exahash massive monumental milestone for KASPA. I wanted to keep this video shorter than usual but packed full of content, so I hope you found my insight useful. I will create another video very soon in depth regarding the latest news updates regarding the KRC20, as well as other upcoming bullish news and alpha, so subscribe with bell notifications on to get notified whenever I post a new video. For today's video though, that is everything. I do strongly believe that KASPA is in a price range that is exceptional for buying more, or entering for the very first time if you are new. I have no doubt in my mind that within the space of a few months this price will be gone forever, so take advantage of it while it lasts. I have begun working on a private Patreon Discord members group whereby I will be giving greater insight into my investment strategies, including buy signals, as well as information on all the other small caps that I hold, which in my mind have the potential for 100x returns in the bull run. If you are interested in joining that group, I should have it up and running fairly soon, but do let me know in the comments your interest down below. Anyway, thank you for watching all the way through to the end of the video. I massively appreciate it, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.